Hello and welcome to the Lore Raider. Today we will be looking at a rather iconic piece of the Tomb Raider lore, the Scion of Atlantis. The Scion has appeared in two games in two different timelines so far. First, in Tomb Raider, the original 1996 classic, and then again in its remake in the Legends timeline known as Tomb Raider Anniversary. Before we begin, and this is my first video, and as you all know, first-timers like myself have a really hard time breaking into the medium. So if I earn your interest, then I hope I can earn your like and subscription. Thank you very much, and with that shameless plug out the way, let's get into the story. Part 1. Ancient Times. The Scion was a pendant. It was believed to have been created and held by God himself. According to legend, they say that any who holds the power of the Scion would get power above that of even the Creator himself. Now, we don't know how the three attained the Scion. We don't know who had it before them, even. We do know that thousands of years before the main game, the three rulers of Atlantis, Tehokan, Qualopec, and Natla, held the Scion. The three divided the Scion into three separate pieces, one for each member of the Triumvirate, granting them great power. The shared rule over Atlantis led to a golden age, an age in which their species could become lax and less survival-based. And this would be the end of Atlantis, I'm afraid. You see, one member of the Triumvirate, Natla, was disillusioned with Atlantean society. She called them a race of lingering wimps, too weak to survive at this point. She decided that she could jumpstart the race, though, through rapid evolution and natural selection. But how, you may ask? The plan was simple. Use the Scion's power to create a race of beasts, a sort of Gen 2 Atlantean race, if you will, and wipe out the current race of Atlanteans, and replace it with hers, under her rule. Of course, that will lead to the death of Tehokan and Qualopec, and you can imagine they were less than enthused with this plan. The two battled Natla, and it was a costly one. It cost Qualopec his mobility, condemning him to an exoskeleton to maintain mobility for the rest of his life. Naturally, though, Natla was defeated, and when she was defeated, they hauled her up to the Great Pyramid and condemned her for her crimes against their species, ripping away her piece of the Scion that they would hide in later years. But for now, they locked her in a piece of Atlantean technology and froze her in Atlantean blood, where she would remain till 1996. Part 2. Aftermath and Modern History. After Natla was sealed and the cataclysm that wiped out Atlantis occurred, both Tehokan and Qualopec would be forced to flee to the desperate corners of the earth, the last Atlanteans, as it were. Tehokan would flee for Greece, where he would rule the people there for an unknown length of time before dying without an heir and being buried under what would become St. Francis's Folly. Meanwhile, Qualopec fled for South America, where he would start a new civilization that would become the Incan civilization in South America. He would be buried in Vilcabamba, his body resting on a throne until he was discovered by Lara Croft. In 1573, a monk named Brother Herbert moved to Greece to join a monastery known as St. Francis's Folly. He would write in his prayer book that he had heard rumors regarding the legend of Atlantis, and that one of its rulers, Tehokan himself, was buried underneath the church, with his piece of the Scion. Herbert, being a Christian man, claimed he tried to suppress his urges. Alas, we don't know if he was successful or not. Fast forwarding to 1996, Natla would acquire the services of one Lara Croft, hiring her to track down Qualopec's piece of the Scion, located in the mountain caves and ruins in Peru. However, Natla would soon reveal her hand, as she would order her goon, Larson, to kill Lara and take her piece of the Scion. Predictably, he would fail to kill our lovely protagonist. With Lara now clued into Natla's treachery, she would bring him to Natla's offices at Natla Industries to read the journals of Brother Herbert himself, before racing to St. Francis's Folly in a race to beat Pierre Dupont, Tehokan's Scion. After doing away with Pierre Dupont after a fierce and pitched battle, Lara Croft would exit the ruins of St. Francis's Folly, only to be jumped by Natla and her goons, who would steal both pieces of the Scion for herself, before leaving her goons to kill Lara Croft. Lara, being the crafty woman she is, manages to narrowly escape death by jumping off a waterfall, and then riding a motorcycle onto Natla's boat, where she would stow away under the deck, Natla being none the wiser. Once erected the Great Pyramid, Natla would use the power of the Scion to get the Great Pyramid functioning once again, using it to develop her long-awaited Atlantean monster and Atlantean army, just like she wanted all those millennia ago. Lara Croft, being the intrepid adventurer that she is, managed to find the room where the Scion was housed, and was about to abort the hatching of the great monster that Natla was cooking up, when Natla jumped and tackled Natla, and sending them hurtling off the platform. Natla was presumed dead, while Lara narrowly avoided death. With both Natla and the monster dead at the end of Tomb Raider 1, Lara would escape the crumbling pyramid, but not before grabbing the Scion, presumably in Tomb Raider 1's expansion, Unfinished Business. But that isn't quite the end of the Scion story. Now, if you go to Lara Croft's mansion in Tomb Raider 3 and go to her secret vault, you can find the broken Scion in its resting place behind glass, safe and sound from society. As you may know, the Scion story appeared in Legends continuity, and I want to tell you there are some slight differences between this story in the original continuity and that in the Legends continuity. For one, Lara never retrieved the Scion, so it was likely destroyed, and on top of that, it is shown that the Atlantean Triumvirate were all siblings, unlike the original. But aside from that, there isn't too much different between the two, so there isn't much of a point for me to make a whole new video on Anniversary. But it's a whole story for the Scion of Atlantis. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you have questions or comments or criticisms even, leave them down below, and I'll be sure to see you next time. And once again, thank you for those of you who watched the video. This is my first video. I'm quite proud of what I was able to do as a beginner, so I hope you'll go easy on me. Alright, take care and stay safe out there.
Don't you think you've seen enough?